Have you ever stumbled upon a passage in the Bible that felt too dark, too mysterious, that it left a lingering question in your soul? Why would a righteous man like Noah, God's chosen survivor of the great flood, curse his own grandson? And not just a simple curse, but one that echoes through generations. Cursed be Canaan. A servant of servants shall he be to his brothers. What could have possibly happened in that tent? Let me take you back. Thousands of years ago, just after the waters had receded and mankind was offered a second chance, Noah, a man found righteous in his generation, had seen the wrath of God and the promise of mercy. After surviving the flood, he planted a vineyard, perhaps a symbol of hope, restoration, maybe even celebration. But then, something deeply human happened. He drank the wine, he got drunk, and he laid uncovered in his tent. That moment, so simple yet so charged, became the setting of a family fracture that still leaves us wondering. Ham, his son, entered the tent. The Bible tells us he saw the nakedness of his father and went out to tell his brothers. But what does that really mean? Some scholars suggest it was simply disrespect, a failure to cover his father's shame. Others more controversially argue that the phrase "saw the nakedness" is a biblical idiom for something far more grievous, an act unthinkable. Regardless of interpretation, when Shem and Japheth walked backward with a garment refusing to look, they were honoring their father's dignity. But when Noah awoke, he did not curse Ham, he cursed Canaan, Ham's son. Why? Why would Noah skip over the father and punish the child? Here's where it gets unsettling. Perhaps Canaan was involved in the incident, maybe even the perpetrator, as some ancient rabbinical traditions whisper. Others believe Noah saw in Canaan a legacy of rebellion and darkness passed from Ham, a spiritual inheritance too heavy to ignore, or maybe, just maybe, this was a father overwhelmed with pain, confusion, and shame, grappling with betrayal in his most vulnerable state. Let's pause. What would you do if the very people closest to you failed you at your lowest? We all have those moments. Naked, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, when we hope someone will cover us, and instead they expose us. The story, raw and ancient, holds up a mirror. And just when we think we understand Noah, another layer unfolds. You see, in the ancient world, a father's curse wasn't just words, it was power. It could shape destinies. The curse of Canaan would go on to be cited for generations, even misused to justify oppression, war, and slavery. But let's be clear, what man intends for judgment, God often uses for redemption. Centuries later, some of Canaan's descendants would be absorbed into Israel. Rahab, a Canaanite prostitute, would become part of the lineage of Jesus Christ, redemption, rising from the ashes of a curse. And yet, we can't help but wonder. What really happened in that tent? What pain did Noah carry in his heart as he looked upon his grandson? Did he regret the curse? Did he weep when no one saw? Friends, the Bible isn't a collection of sanitized stories. It's full of broken people, complex families, raw emotion. And that's what makes it real. That's what makes it holy. Because in the end, it always points back to grace. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like Canaan, carrying a weight you didn't ask for, paying for someone else's mistake? You're not alone, but you're not bound either. God's grace is bigger than the curses of men. Even when history tries to define you, He offers you a new name. Before we continue, if this story is touching you, shaking something deep inside, I want to invite you to do two simple things. Like this video, so others who need to hear this can find it. And comment below, "I choose grace over my past." That's your declaration that you will not be a prisoner of generational pain. And if there's another story from the Bible, another dark, misunderstood moment you want us to explore, drop it in the comments. This channel isn't just storytelling, it's healing. Let's move deeper. Let's look at the psychological weight this moment must have carried for Noah. He had witnessed the destruction of all mankind, saved his family, obeyed God in ways we can't even imagine. But now, post-flood, post-ark, he finds himself vulnerable, exposed. He drinks not just wine, perhaps, but to forget, to escape the memory of screams beneath the rising waters, the smell of death, the burden of survival, and then betrayal from within his own bloodline. How often do we assume that once we obey God, life will be easy? But even Noah wasn't spared pain. Obedience doesn't erase suffering. It just gives it purpose. Let that sink in. If you're going through something today, and you've been trying to live right, but the storm still hits you, don't give up. You're in the company of Noah. Now imagine being Ham, or Canaan, living under the shadow of a curse that everyone talks about, but no one truly understands. What do? You can break the cycle. You can become the Rahab of your generation. You can rewrite the legacy, but only if you confront the tent moments in your own story. Moments of shame, secrets, sins, whether your own or ones committed against you. Healing begins with honesty, and maybe this strange and painful story about a man, a tent, and a curse isn't really about judgment at all. Maybe it's about redemption waiting to be claimed. What happens when a family carries a curse? Not a fairy tale curse with witches and spells, but a real one passed through words, wounds, and whispers. The kind that lingers in bloodlines, that steals identity, that makes you question your worth. That was Canaan's world. He didn't sin. He wasn't in the tent. Yet his name became synonymous with servitude, with rejection. How many of us have lived that story, labeled limited, and left out for something we didn't do? You see, this isn't just a story about Noah. It's a story about us. Generational trauma, family shame, silent pain. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered why you carry burdens you never chose? Why do you feel like you're paying debts you never borrowed? Maybe your father was broken, your mother was absent. Maybe love in your house came with conditions, and somehow that legacy drips into your soul, like a curse you never agreed to. Canaan didn't ask to be cursed, but he was, and history didn't forget it. But let me tell you something powerful. God is not defined by human curses. Even when your beginning is broken, your ending doesn't have to be. Let me prove it to you. In Joshua 2, we meet a woman named Rahab, a Canaanite, a prostitute, the kind of person society discards. But when the Israelites came to spy out the land, she welcomed them, protected them. She believed. And because of her faith, she was saved. Not only that she became part of Israel, she married into the tribe. She gave birth to Boaz, who would become the great-grandfather of King David. And through her, Jesus came. From cursed blood came the Redeemer. Let that sink in. The very line that Noah cursed became the womb of salvation. So if you've been told your story is too messy, your past too dirty, your name too tainted, remember Rahab. God can take a curse and turn it into a calling. Let's circle back to Noah. Have you ever wondered if he regretted the words, maybe years later sitting in silence, watching Canaan play, laugh, grow? Maybe he whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Or maybe not. Maybe in his wounded heart, he still believed he was protecting something sacred. Maybe he thought cursing Canaan would stop a greater evil. We don't know. But what we do know is that every word we speak, especially in anger, can shape the future. Parents, what words have you spoken over your children? Sons and daughters, what names have you believed about yourself? Lazy, stupid, unwanted, like your father. You'll never be enough. These are modern-day curses, spoken not with power from heaven, but from pain in the heart. But there is good news. Jesus came to break every curse. In Galatians 3:13, it says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. That means no words spoken against you by a parent, a teacher, a bully, even yourself can hold power if you give it to God. So what do? We forgive. We release. We speak life where death once echoed. If you're still watching, I know something in your heart is stirring. This isn't just history. It's your story too. And right now, I want to ask you something personal. Whose curse are you still carrying? A father's silence, a mother's bitterness, a church that judged instead of loved. It's time to let go. Say it out loud. I am not my past. I am not their pain. I am free. Comment that below. Let it be a public declaration. You don't have to explain. Just write. I am free. And if this story is unlocking something for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video. Let it find someone who's walking with chains invisible to the world. Now let's look at another layer. Canaan's descendants, the Canaanites, would become Israel's greatest enemies. The promised land flowing with milk and honey was their land. That's right. The land promised to God's people was occupied by the people Noah cursed. That irony is so deep it hurts. It's as if the curse was not only a spiritual wound, but a prophecy fulfilled. A conflict written in pain, playing out across generations. But even then, even in battle, God kept showing mercy. Gibeonites were Canaanites, and when they tricked Joshua into a peace treaty, God honored it. Because God is not bound by man's revenge. He's a God of mercy, covenant, and restoration. So let me ask you, what are you still fighting that should have ended long ago? Old grudges, family feuds, unforgiveness. The battles you keep revisiting because someone cursed you instead of covering you. Noah's story could have ended differently. What if instead of cursing Canaan, he had prayed for healing? What if he had covered the wound? Instead of passing it down, you have that power today to cover, to protect, to speak life. You can be the generation that breaks what others allowed. That's what this channel is about. Not just stories, but healing. So if you want to go deeper, if you want us to explore more moments in Scripture where curses were broken, destinies rewritten, let us know in the comments. Drop a name, a verse, a question. This isn't just content, this is community. And while you're here, hit the like button, not for algorithm's sake, but because it helps truth rise above noise. And subscribe because these stories matter. You matter. Now close your eyes for a second. Imagine Noah, an old man, sitting by a fire, remembering the flood, the rainbow, the vineyard, and the curse. Do you think he wept? Do you think he whispered a prayer? God, undo what I've done. We don't know, but you can make that prayer today. For your family, your children, your future. It starts now. Let's imagine something together. What if the story of Noah wasn't just about survival, sin, or a curse, but about the power of choice? Because in the end, every legacy, cursed or blessed, comes down to that one thing: choice. Canaan may have been cursed by words, but every generation after him had a decision to make. Will we continue the cycle, or will we break it? It's the same question we face. You might have come from brokenness, betrayal, abuse, silence, generations of addiction, violence, absence. But your story doesn't end there. You can be the Noah of your family, the one who builds an ark of hope in a sea of chaos. Or the Shem and Japheth, the ones who cover, protect, restore. Or maybe you feel like Ham. You made a mistake. You exposed someone's weakness. You broke trust. Even then, grace is not out of reach. The Bible doesn't erase human error, but it offers divine redemption. Let me show you how powerful that can be. Do you know what name Jesus is often called the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Judah was not the firstborn. He wasn't the most righteous. In fact, he once sold his brother Joseph into slavery. But he repented. He changed. He protected Benjamin. He became a leader, and God chose him. That's what grace does. It doesn't choose the perfect. It chooses the willing. And that same grace is reaching for you right now. Maybe you've cursed others with your words, or cursed yourself. Maybe you've labeled yourself unworthy, unloved, irredeemable. But the cross changes everything. On that cross, Jesus took every curse spoken, inherited, deserved, and nailed it to wood. He became sin, so you could become free. And what's more powerful, he didn't just die. He rose, so that your story doesn't end in shame. It begins in resurrection. Now imagine this. What if Noah, in his final days, saw Canaan differently? What if he saw glimpses of hope in his eyes, laughter, curiosity, compassion? What if he realized that even those we curse are still made in the image of God? There's a lesson here for all of us. We're so quick to judge label exile. But what if we slowed down? What if we asked, what pain are they carrying? What story haven't I heard? Every person you meet is a tent scene waiting to be interpreted. Did they sin, or were they sinned against? Are they rebellious, or just broken? Are they cursed, or simply crying for grace? Your kindness could be the turning point in their story. And sometimes, that someone is you. It's time to forgive yourself. You walked into the tent. You looked. You failed. But today you can walk out new. Not ashamed. Not afraid. But free. Because what the enemy meant for evil, God can turn for good. Now let me leave you with this. The Bible says Noah lived 350 years after the flood. That's a long time to live with regret or reflection. We don't know how many conversations he had with Ham or Canaan, but we know God's heart. And God's heart is always restoration, even when curses are spoken, even when relationships break, even when shame seems too heavy. God is writing a bigger story, and you're a part of it. This moment right here, right now, isn't just the end of a YouTube video. It's an altar, a crossroad, where you get to decide, will you carry the curse or claim the calling? Will you relive pain or release it? Will you let the story end in shame or rewrite it in grace? I want to challenge you. Think of someone in your life who might feel like Canaan, left out, judged, forgotten. Reach out, cover them with words of love. And if that person is you, then look in a mirror and say, I am not what they said. I am who God says I am. And if this message moved, you don't keep it to yourself. Click like, not for numbers. For impact, click subscribe, so we can walk together in more stories like this. And comment below, I choose redemption, not because it's easy, but because it's possible. And finally, tell me, what story should we explore next? The broken dreams of King Saul, the betrayal of Peter, the pain of Tamar, the loneliness of Elijah. Let me know in the comments. Your story matters. Your voice matters. We're building something sacred here, not just a channel, but a sanctuary, where shame is shattered, where truth is told, where hope rises. Because the tent may have been a place of shame, but the cross is a place of salvation, and your story is not over. It's just beginning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for healing. You are not cursed. You are chosen.